Hello, partnership members. We're trialing this as a little bit of an experiment to see if it helps you. And if it doesn't get so many hits, then we'll know it's not worked quite as well as we hoped. This is a debrief of our last peer conversation. We're thinking of doing these for each peer conversation, basically. Just three key takeaways from the session, just in case you missed it. You'll see the slide deck, which has more detail. But the three standout points for me, for what it's worth, with these. One of our speakers said, and I quote, "I think data analysis is really interesting, but I used to be terrified of it. But it's just a story. It's just telling a story." And I really like that as a way into data analysis. Data analysis does sound faintly terrifying to me, certainly. But telling a story, I think stories really land well with many people. And describing data analysis as that more people-centered, slightly warmer, more generous way of thinking about it, I think was telling and striking and useful. So thanks to the speaker for that one. Just telling the story. The other thing she said, actually, it happened to be the same speaker, was people love being asked questions. I remember when I was working for the CIPD, I used to take in, when I met a client, a potential HR director, 10 questions to ask them. And I only once in hundreds of meetings, literally hundreds of meetings with HR directors, only got beyond question two once. They would always just go for the first one, which is what keeps you awake at night. And there was so much to talk about in HR, unfortunately, in good and bad ways, that actually you didn't get on to all the backup questions, so-called. I think she's right. People do love being asked questions, not least because I'm not sure how many questions we ask of each other. Generally, we could probably do more, all of us, on that score, he said, talking and not asking questions. Thirdly, HR systems, which was very interesting. So in the breakout rooms and the little groups that we had in smaller groups, really, it seemed to me people weren't particularly happy with their HR system. This might be an understatement. Either way, we asked the group, is there anyone in this group of just under 30 people in the room? Are you happy with your HR system? And literally only one person said yes. When we invited them to expand on that, it turned out they had quite a few HR data people specifically helping to translate work with what the system was producing. In fact, they had, I think, 6 people, of which 3 were full-time. And that system clearly, which I mean, not just the HR system, but the system around it, the ecosystem, if you like, clearly worked well for them. We then went on to say, actually, how many people in the room still have somebody dedicated just to HR data, which seemed to be a becoming title, becoming job role a few years back. And actually only 3 did. Now, as somebody else mentioned, that's probably to do with the size of the organization. On the other hand, for something that felt like a very current job title, 3 out of just under 30 seemed a very small number, really, particularly bearing in mind the person who was happy with their system probably was happy because of the number of people who were helping to translate what was coming out of the system and working with the data. In fact, scratched probably, because we asked what was more telling. Is it the data itself from the system, or is it the people translating the data? And she helpfully landed on the second. So the lessons seem to be, if you want to get the best out of your HR system, then it's you need somebody dedicated to it and to HR data. But that's not something many people have so much anymore. That's a very small sample, of course. It was only just under 30 people. Interested to hear what other members' experiences are, whether that's still something you've got in your teams, i.e. a head of HR data or an HR data manager, if they make the difference, and how you feel about your HR system. It was quite striking, though, that there was not a great deal of happiness with what they're getting from their HR system and their data and their insight. And as I say, equally striking, it's just about telling the story. I thought was a lovely way of putting it. I hope this is helpful. As I say, if it's not, then that's okay. We can do something else instead. And we'll see you in an event soon. Keep sharing on the WhatsApp groups. Thank you ever so much.